You entrusted your loved one's care to a nursing home, expecting compassion and quality treatment. Instead, they suffered from neglect, abuse, bed sores, falls, or medication errors that could have been prevented. I'm Chris Brown from Geiger Legal Group. Our elderly deserve dignity and proper care, not negligence that causes pain and suffering. When nursing homes fail in their duty of care, we fight to hold them accountable. Your loved one's suffering matters. We'll stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves.
Call Geiger Legal Group at 833-HELP-GLG and let us tell your story today.
You snoozed twice this morning, spilled your coffee once, and you've already blamed last night's referee for your morning mood.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
It's time to embrace the chaos and step into the madness.
Bro, you about to see a side of me you didn't even know existed.
Featuring guests who are over-caffeinated and less reasonable than the average person.
Man, I think it's just ridiculous.
Come on, man. Are you serious? Ugh.
Fans, where else would you rather be than right here, right now? Welcome to the show.
So buckle up. It's time for hot takes and hot mics. This is the Morning Rant, where the only thing more unpredictable is Dave before his third cup of coffee.
I just felt like running.
On WPGY, the Sports Pig.
What's up, North Georgia? It's a Friday happy hour edition of the Morning Rant, presented by your friends at Bradley's Bar and Grill off of Lower Roswell Road in East Cobb. Dave Garner with you alongside the refrigerator mover, Big John Davis, joining us on the program here on this Friday happy hour edition. We appreciate you guys being with us as a little bit of rain moving through North Georgia on and off. Some high school graduations over the last couple of nights. More tonight. I know we've got one graduating tonight, and so there's a lot of folks that are buckling up and trying to figure out what the weather's going to do tonight, I guess.
Professor, it's always nice to see you. I'm glad that you're getting rain because we're not.
You're not getting any. You're not getting any down there in Marietta.
It's raining all around us.
Really, really.
They shut down 75, 85 the other day.
Yeah,
because the rain was so bad a couple of days ago. But no, we haven't gotten one drop.
Wow.
Well, and we were talking. It was hailing over at the Braves game.
Yeah,
and as the crow flies, it's not even 5 miles.
Right.
And we didn't get anything. So congratulations on your graduate.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, excited about that. Yeah, my wife will be.
I'm done with all of mine. We don't have to worry about it. My next graduation will be I guess a 5-year-old going into first grade or preschool or whatever they call it these days.
So you're more about the grandkids now than anything. So yeah, this is our last one, and she did, she's got her college plans made and everything, and so
that's awesome.
So we're kind of at that next step. Mom's kind of a little bit of a mess because this is the youngest, the last, and all that sort of stuff. You know how that goes. So
trust me, when she gets out of the house, she'll be fine.
Yeah, I think so too. Hey, I like what you're wearing, man. Slice me open and see what colors I bleed. Is that what that says? And it's a Georgia Tech shirt
that's the
there.
Famous Brent Key quote. That's the way I feel. That's the way I've always been.
Right.
I don't think a lot of people realize that I grew up a Georgia fan.
Okay.
I had an uncle that had seats on like the 45-yard line on Georgia's side, about 30 rows up. And, of course, I didn't know anything at the time. I just would just go and show up.
Right. Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, once recruiting started and that fateful, and it could be a story for later, but that fateful meeting with Vince Dooley and the coaches at my house kind of switched me to the right side, as I may say.
You didn't go over to the dark side. You stayed to the light.
I think my life would have probably been a lot easier if I had gone over to that school to the east of us.
Right.
But I tend to think that I wanted to live harder, difficult, more life sometimes by going to Georgia Tech.
Well,
but I never regret it.
Sometimes we're a glutton for punishment, and so there you go. Exactly. But no, I think it worked out well for you, partner. Obviously, a lot of Georgia Tech talk, certainly right here on this program. I know that Chuck Oliver, who, comes on after us in the mornings at 11, talks a lot of college football and a lot of SEC news, particularly. And you and I will talk about that today on the program as well. Hey, again, this Friday happy hour edition, as always, brought to you by your friends at Bradley's Bar and Grill. And John, you and I were talking. We have nailed down the date for our next appearance at Bradley's, and it's going to be a big one because there's going to be a lot of things going on that day.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I talked to John yesterday. Our good friend Ryan Monet is going to be bringing his smoker by. We're going to do our 3-hour show.
Yeah.
But we're going to be smoking some butts, Boston butts. We're going to pork butts, and we're going to be smoking some ribs and some chickens. And
boy, now
so
you're
it's going to be a great
speaking
Father's
my
Day
language.
Bash.
Yeah, it is. It's Father's Day weekend that weekend, but join us on Friday. Father's Day weekend will start a little early, man. Come tailgate with us right there at Bradley's Bar and Grill down in East Cobb, and we've got a lot of folks that stopped by the last time. Of course, we were there, last Friday. It was a lot of fun. Several of your friends and buddies, and there was different folks that stopped by that are planning to come by again next month. I know we've picked up some more unique listeners from that event. So, yeah, man, looking forward to it.
Yeah, and we got a good friend, our friend John LaChance from Georgia Banking Company right next door. They brought their whole crowd down, and in fact, one of their lovely ladies won the Braves tickets.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right,
which was great for them. And John's a great guy. He's a residential residential lender.
And, right, mortgage
so,
lender.
anytime we can help these guys out, and, I know that they'll return the favor in kind. But we just got a lot of people coming by. Ryan Monet with his smoker. I'm trying to find, I don't have my notes right here, but he has a business that all he does is barbecue. I mean, he works with his father. They work with the public works all over the Southeast, and he just does a great job with barbecue. And I think I told you, but we bought a half a cow, which we has provided much for our family. But there's a great big brisket that came along with it.
Oh, wow.
And I could say one thing. I've probably smoked about 10 or 12, and I can't do it. It's never come out right. So I'm going to take it up to Ryan, and we're going to smoke it.
There you go.
During our radio show. Of course, it's going to be about 12, 15-hour ordeal.
I was going to say you'll have to get there pretty early that morning, or maybe late that night before.
Well, we plan on getting there about 3 a.m. So
okay.
I don't know how I'm going to be when the show comes.
Well, I was going to say you'll already be.
It will be entertaining.
Yeah. Maybe a little lack of sleep might make for some interesting radio that day. There's definitely an art form to smoking. Things like that. Turkeys or what have you. Barbecue, obviously, and so pork. I mean, there's different fundraisers. Speaking of one of the fundraisers that are one of the organizations that we're fundraising for that event is the Boys and Girls Club of North Georgia, and every year they do a Boston Butt fundraiser. And I know that our friend Alan Horn, who's with one of the local State Farm agencies here in town, he's one of the guys. There's Danny and some other folks that have businesses that come in and they do that. They start like the night before in the parking lot of the Boys and Girls Club, and they smoke all these butts, and then they sell them off over the next day or so, and people come by and pick them up fresh. I've done it before. They're awesome. So there's definitely an art form to it. But yeah, man, you already got me ready. I mean, my mouth's watering now, man. I'm ready for that.
I will say this, Dave. Everybody's barbecue. There's only 2 or 3 joints that I really don't like barbecue. Yeah. But I never question anybody's barbecue because we all have our same our ways of doing it.
Yeah.
You do it your way, I do it mine. You do it at 275, I do it at 230. You know what I mean? It's just everything's different. The only thing that I can't stand is when they just leave the gobs of fat in there.
Oh yeah.
Now, and I grew up, I've been helping my dad since 75, smoking and everything. And the one thing that I always noticed him. Now, remember, we had a restaurant in LJ when I was growing up, and they would come from Chattanooga, Dalton, Gainesville, at Marietta, Cartersville to eat my dad's barbecue. And a lot of it had to do with my uncle's sauce as well.
Yeah.
But Dad was very meticulous about getting all the fat out of it.
Yeah.
And I see the good points about that. But then again, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to leave a little bit of fat in there, because when you heat it up, that moistness and that fat just kind of dissolves.
Oh, yeah.
And keeps it tender and a little bit more, I'm not saying fresh, but just more tender. Yeah. And but I'll never complain. Only if I go to a place and there's just gobs of fat in there is the only way I'll say no.
Sometimes the fat holds in the flavor, like you said, so a little bit of it's not bad, because it definitely helps out there a little bit. People putting ham hock, people putting all kind of stuff in all kind of things, man. My dad was like that. My dad was very country. My dad was very Southern, and so, man, I mean, yeah, we always used to have crackling cornbread, and he'd cook with ham hock and all that stuff, and so, yeah, man, I mean, it's some of that stuff's good. You don't want to just eat it by itself, but if you cook it into the recipe and let it kind of sit in there with it, yeah.
Well, and you know what? To me, it's kind of like golf as well. I only golf with people that I like, because if I'm going to spend 5 hours with you, I damn sure want to enjoy it. And so it's the same way
Amen to that.
It's the same way with smoking. I'm only going to smoke with certain people, because I'm going to be sitting here for 8 or 10 hours.
Right.
And you might sip a cocktail, you might not, but you sit there and you just enjoy fellowship, and you trade stories, and I mean, it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I may have to get there a little earlier, beat the traffic anyway, so maybe I'll come join you guys. Right. The only thing I've ever really smoked are cigars. I mean, that's pretty much it, and I love a good cigar. So maybe between smoking the butts and then smoking a couple of cigars or something there. But anyway, hey, we always talk about this show being 80% sports, the 10% food, 10% everything else, and we definitely have the food covered this morning for you right here. We appreciate you guys being with us. A lot of things to get to. We were going to talk a little bit about some college news and notes. PGA Tour continues this weekend with the Byron Cup. Of course, we've got some NFL notes and news as well. But I do want to kind of end this first segment talking about some tragedy in the world of racing. Kyle Busch losing his life at the age of 41. This one kind of hit home to me, because my son grew up a huge Kyle Busch fan. I know he was one of the more hated drivers on the circuit. Even this year when we were at Atlanta Motor Speedway, the crowd was booing like they always do, because Rowdy Busch just had that reputation. But he was a guy that was very respected in the garage, a guy that has won more races than any other driver across all 3 NASCAR circuits, more than anyone in history. So, the legacy that Kyle Busch leaves behind, not only as a driver, but of course a husband, a father, the record speaks for itself. But yeah, just some kind of, it was just odd. It was just odd, man. Just surreal. He went in with an illness and didn't come out.
Well, I don't even know if we know what he died of.
I don't think so at this point.
I read an article where about 10 days ago he was in his car, either testing or racing. He says, "Boys, get me a doctor."
Yeah.
Next thing you know, 10 days later, he's dead.
Right.
And, like you said, 234 wins over the 3 series of racing, 2 Cup championships. I think watching the feedback and the tributes coming in, he was very hated, but it was a very respectful hate. And it sounds like, from what I'm reading, is that they the racers that went up against them. How are you doing it? I got to find out how you're doing it. You don't give us any information. You just got your own way. But the tributes coming in are unbelievable, and it really sucks for the professional family, the athletes, and I guess if you got to go, you go quick. It's just a sad day overall.
Yeah.
And I was watching Marty Smith on ESPN this morning. Poor guy about broke down, because they had developed a great relationship. So it is a sad day, and I'm sure in the weeks to come that their NASCAR is going, and other sports are going to honor him and tribute him in the right way.
Yeah, it was the elite on the World News last night. I've got a Kyle Busch story to share on the other side of the break. Do want to remind people, though, our Jasper Coca-Cola text line is open, 866-888-0744. Again, as always, that's 866-888-0744. Share your favorite Kyle Busch moment or any moment from the world of racing right here on this Friday happy hour edition of the Morning Rant. First time out right now. Again, the home of ESPN Radio is here in North Georgia, and that's the Sports Pig app and online at sportspigradio.com.
Welcome to your hometown pub. Open 7 days a week, the pub in LJ is your happy hour hangout. They offer a variety of dishes to satisfy every palate, and their friendly staff is here to ensure a wonderful time. Join them for daily happy hour specials Monday through Thursday. And don't forget, every Wednesday is Wing Wednesday with $1 wings all day long. Located at 941 Maddox Drive in East LJ. Open Sunday through Wednesday till midnight, Thursday through Saturday till 2 a.m. The pub in LJ, where every visit feels like home.
Grand Slam!
98.1 and 93.7 The Sports Pig, the official home for the Atlanta Braves baseball. Big opinions of the big games from the big mouths.
Man, I think it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's the Morning Rant on WPGY The Sports Pig, North Georgia's home for ESPN Radio.
Sit down.
Back here on a Friday happy hour presented by your friends at Bradley's Bar and Grill, East Cobb's #1 upscale dive bar since 1998. Again, our friend John Capone and all the folks at Bradley's Bar and Grill, they'll play host to us. I'm not even sure we mentioned the exact date. I guess June 17th or 19th. June 19th. I know we talked about
June 19th
being Father's Day weekend and everything, but yeah, we will be back there. Hey, welcome back to the program right here. Again, this is the Morning Rant on the home of ESPN Radio in North Georgia. We did have a texter or a listener text our Jasper Coca-Cola text line, and again, they were saying that on the news this morning, there was a person at Indy, because the Indy 500 is this weekend, the Coca-Cola 600 is this weekend. Kyle Busch actually just won the truck race last weekend, and there was an interview where he had gotten out of the car, and the lady asked him about, well, hey, what does it mean to you? He said, well, it means a lot because you never know when the last one's going to be. And that was literally just a few days ago. But anyway.
That gives me chills.
Oh, it does, yeah. And then so a listener this morning says they interviewed somebody at Indy to talk about Kyle Busch, and the first thing that this person said was, well, I didn't really like him, but. So I thought that was interesting. They couldn't even find someone who liked him to bring him on national TV to speak about his death. But anyway, the listener here says, like John said, everyone seems to be respectful, even though honest. And that's from Olivia in Raleigh. So, again, we appreciate you listening in. We got a lot of out-of-state listeners and folks as well. But, yeah, I think that was kind of the general sentiment when it came to Kyle Busch, is that, there was a reason why people like to boo him. But I will say this in his defense. We were at Talladega one year, and my son was a lot younger. My son's 22 now. He was probably 12, so this has probably been at least 10 years ago, and his favorite driver was Kyle Busch, and we got to go in the infield. We got to go along the row there where they were doing the introductions, and we were kind of lined up, and people were trying to get autographs, and, some of the drivers would and so forth, and I mentioned something about maybe we can get Kyle. We had the M&M's hat and all that stuff, and my son was standing there. And everybody was saying, well, Kyle never signs anything. Good luck with that. You're probably not going to make that happen. So I took my shot, man. I took my shot. When Kyle came walking by, I said, hey, Kyle, man, this is your biggest fan right here. And I was pointing at my son, and he kind of kept walking, but then he stopped, and he kind of looked over, and he noticed the hat. And he came over. He walked over to the fence there, to the barricade or whatever, and he kind of looked at the hat for a moment. Was looking at maybe some of the other autographs that were on there, but he grabbed the Sharpie, signed it, handed it back to him. And I said, man, nice. I appreciate that. So, for everything bad that people may have thought about Kyle Busch, there was still a little good in him.
It's funny you say that, and that is, excuse me, that is good. As fans, if I can speak as a player, you try to put yourself in the position of they come to practice, they come to the race.
Right.
And I do feel as an athlete, it's our obligation to spend as much time as we can with the fans, but knowing also that there's a place and a time for it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm glad that he did that. I think it's a privilege of ours to take the time. I'm looking right here. I think I told you last month in April, I signed about 150 cards.
Wow.
And sent back. And I've got a whole nother stack here, and it's not
goodness.
even it's not even the end of May. But I do think it's our privilege and it's an obligation that we hold, and I'm glad that Kyle did that because that's a memory. Obviously you brought it up. That's a memory you're always going to have.
Absolutely. My son was like, what? I mean, just kind of shocked like a lot of the racing world was. Again, our Jasper Coca-Cola text line is open, 866-888-0744. Someone else just chimed in. Seems like Kyle Busch was the kind of driver that fans love to hate. Aggressive, emotional, and unapologetically competitive. But at the end of the day, even his critics eventually had to respect his, authenticity and talent that he brought to the sport. So again, we appreciate the comments right there online. But yeah, I think that's kind of the general sentiment as we talked about with Kyle Busch. So
and then always, if I've always learned this, or I learned it later in life, but I wish I would have known it a little bit earlier. But winners aren't always liked. Leaders aren't always liked. And and I went through a period of like that at Georgia Tech, they certain people have to stand up and be a leader, and I always felt like I was a quiet leader because I wasn't a rah-rah guy. It's like I've told you before, I tried to secure as much oxygen as I could because it's I didn't want to waste anything. And but then you've got these leaders out there that just are bold, brash, and they back it up, and you got to love it. And as I said, I think the tributes coming out in the future will be a lot more positive than negative.
Absolutely. I think so too, for sure. Again, Kyle Busch, two-time NASCAR champion, the all-time winner across all three circuits in NASCAR, passing away at the age of 41 very unexpectedly. Hey, let's switch gears and kind of bring the mood up a little bit here and talk about some hockey. I mean, I know that, again, with the talk of Atlanta potentially getting a franchise, and you and I have kind of gotten, involved in it a little bit, obviously with the Sabres and so forth, but how about the Montreal Canadiens, who again took it to Carolina last night, and you got to wonder, there's got to be something to be said for sitting around maybe too long, because Carolina's been in the clubhouse for about a week and a half now, or even 2 weeks, waiting on that other series to wrap up after they swept their series, and they kind of felt like it's almost like they got caught flat-footed last night.
Well, prove me wrong. And I told you, I said I thought Carolina was going to get rested. I know you can practice without hitting each other and stuff, but boy, last night they stunk it up.
Yeah.
And it's like I said, Montreal with Buffalo. I think Montreal was the better team, and then now we'll see. Now Carolina is a good team, so we'll see if they, I'm sure they're going to have a nice active practice today, and then we'll see what happens. I think tomorrow night, but it only gets tougher because whoever wins is going to face a very tough Vegas or Colorado team.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. Canadian,
and it makes for great. It makes for great hockey. I mean,
it does.
Know what? The ratings have to be high.
Right.
I think the announcers, once they got off of TNT and got into ESPN, I think the announcers do a lot better job of being more even keeled and announcing the game. But no, it's fun to watch. And not being a hockey guy, I just find myself just flipping by and stopping and just watching.
Yeah, Canadians 6-2 over the Hurricanes. Yeah, I think with Sean McDonough, I like Sean McDonough doing hockey. I mean, he's done a lot of classic moments. I mean, for some of you Braves fans, you might remember the Sid Bream slide. I mean, that was Sean McDonough, and that's always my impression of him, is line driving a base hit. He gets real high sometimes, and he does that with hockey too. Like you'll notice in some of those more excitable moments, But Sean McDonough, of course, is a legendary broadcaster. Has been around for decades. Does a lot of college football, and has kind of quietly done some of the biggest moments in sports. Yeah. But he really has transitioned kind of more into that lead hockey guy for ESPN and for the folks that have the playoffs there. But again, I like the direction there with the coverage, especially when you get to this point. NBA last night as well. I know you don't watch the NBA, and I really don't either, but I do want to throw it out there. Again, the Knicks now up 2-0 over the Cavs, 109-93. Again, we're starting to see the Knicks now. I think that series is, not, I wouldn't say all but done, but, again, with the way they're rolling right now, man, I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, well, the Hawks were the last one to beat them.
Yeah,
they're 9-0.
you're right.
Yeah,
you're right.
Unbelievable.
Atlanta Braves get the dub last night. They lose the opening game of a 4-game set against Miami, but they roll over the next 3. They take 3 of 4 last night. Spencer Strider, again, just 3 earned runs on the night, but the Braves bats were once again popping. Yaz goes deep again.
Yeah.
Man, what in the world? He's starting to get some confidence going right there. Acuna had a couple of hits on the night. Michael Harris with a pair of home runs in the ball game. A multi-homer night, or for Money Mike, there's the Braves dispatch of Miami 9-3, and now they'll come home this weekend for a weekend set against the Washington Nationals. But you got to like the way this Braves team responded after losing that opener 12-0.
For the people who watch us at night on YouTube channel, I'm not being rude, but it's so nice that I'm letting everybody know I'm not as smart as the professor, so I have to look at my monitor to do the stats and everything. But Dave, even if the 6, 7, and 8 guys pick their averages up like they like the first 3 or 4 hitters of the Braves,
right?
I mean, Yastrzemski's 3 for 3. His average has shot up, and you got Riley, who's still sitting at about 208. He's in a little bit of a slump right now, going 0 for 4. But you've got these other guys coming through, and it's well balanced. 13 hits, and I was trying to look to see, because I know we talked about it. We were 2 for 6 with runners in scoring position. So still, that's almost 40%. And that's, like you said, I believe yesterday or Wednesday, it's almost a run or 2 in your advantage.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So the Braves, again, being able to get the timely hits, I think that was really the big thing last year this team struggled with, obviously, in a disappointing season, or really last couple of seasons, because we had a trivia question on yesterday about the Braves, the 3 guys, 3 teammates that hit over 40 home runs. We talked about that. Well, they did that as recent as 2 years ago, but yet the team really didn't go anywhere, because, they were hitting a lot of solo home runs. They weren't hitting with guys, on base and in scoring position, but the Braves have been able to take advantage of that for the most part. Speaking of baseball, real quick, I do want to mention high school baseball state championships underway tomorrow. The Class 3A state championship, the Pickens High Dragons taking on Troup County. The send-off party in the morning, because graduation's tonight, so they're not going down early, because some of those kids are going to want to graduate and go walk across the stage, but they will leave tomorrow morning, the Pickens Dragons. But our live coverage over on our sister station, 101.1 The Pulse, begins at 4:30. We've expanded it up to 4:30. We'll have both games for you tomorrow night live over on our sister station. Looking forward to that. And then the Etowah Eagles as well. They start their series on Monday in the 6A bracket. So a lot of great local representation in state baseball.
Yeah, no, it's great. I wish both of them a bunch of luck, and hopefully they can bring the trophy home. I know the county and city of Jasper's proud of them, and hopefully there'll be a good crowd down there. I know you're leaving early, I think, to head down there tomorrow.
In the morning,
so,
we'll get down there,
safe travels for that as well.
Yeah, man, appreciate it. In Atlanta, the X factor is the traffic. You never know. You got to leave 3 hours earlier than you would normally leave, just because you have to factor all that in right there. But again, best of luck. Also, Kell and Pope, a couple of East Cobb teams down around your neck of the woods, also going at it in the 4A and 5A bracket as well. So, again, we'll talk more about that coming up on Monday next week. Of course, Memorial Day weekend this weekend right here. So the lead-up show for you right here. We're going to go ahead and take another break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the PGA Tour, and we'll dive into some college football notes. Again, plenty to talk about right here on this Friday happy hour edition of the Morning Rant, presented by your friends at Bradley's Bar and Grill. Text us on our Jasper Coca-Cola text line, 866-888-0740. 888-742-0744. This is the home of ESPN Radio in North Georgia on the Sports Pig app and online at sportspigradio.com.
Whatever cooling solution makes the most sense, Green Heating and Cooling is ready to help. Whether you need a quick fix or an entirely new cooling system, Green will do whatever it takes for your family's comfort. With Green, you get more than just a technician. You get someone who's committed to meeting your needs and achieving a high level of training and skills. Someone backed by outstanding products from one of the industry's most trusted names, Bryant. Nobody understands the ins and outs of home comfort like Green. So whatever your situation or budget, Green Heating and Cooling has a solution for you. Bryant, whatever it takes.
98.1 and 93.7 The Sports Pig, your official home for flag-to-flag coverage of NASCAR. An hour of Dave-A-Day keeps the workday full of play. Woo-hoo! It's time for the Friday morning happy hour on the Morning Rant.
And back here on the program, thanks for being with us. Dave Garner, the professor inside with the refrigerator mover John Davis on another Friday happy hour presented by your friends at Bradley's Bar and Grill. Again, down there off of Lower Roswell Road in East Cobb. Bradley's, again, East Cobb's #1 upscale dive bar since 1998. And, man, speaking of wings and everything else, man, I was really impressed with everything that we experienced. It's hard to believe it's already been a week. But, man, I tell you what, man, that was just a fun time. Looking forward to being back out there.
One of the things and I'll do it the next time when we have our show, is that he, by far, how much I talk about the wings. Just look at me. But by far, some of the best mozzarella sticks I've ever had, and they are legitimately homemade. And I mean, it's just the little things that he does to make that place so good. So I can't wait till we get back. Big barbecue on Friday before Father's Day. Pork butts. We're going to have ribs. We're going to have chicken. He's going to have some drink specials, and I think he's also going to bring back the 50-cent wing special as well.
Oh, there we go, man. You had me at wings, man. I'm there, no doubt about it. Hey, thanks for being with us right here on the Morning Rant. Do want to mention, before we get off the baseball thing, we talked about the Braves. We talked about our high school teams, of course, going at it this weekend. Georgia Tech, too. It'd be remiss if we didn't mention that the Jackets and the Dogs are both in conference tourney play right now, leading up to the College World Series. And both teams, man, I tell you, they both lived in the top 5 for a lot of the season this year. And, man, hopefully they'll get in there and be able to make some noise.
I was watching the game yesterday. Well, actually listening to the show, your show, and I was watching, and, of course, Virginia probably played the best baseball they've played all year. And they kept, every time Tech would score, Virginia would score 2 more runs, and then Tech would score, and then Virginia. And so finally, about the 8th inning, I believe, 7th or 8th inning, the long ball came in.
Yeah.
And, man, you talk about some rocket launches. Those guys were just smoking it. And grand slam, 2 or 3, a couple of 3-run homers. And so they came out on top. It was very dicey at the end. And then I see here that school to the east of us, they seem to pull it out 5-3 against Mississippi State.
Yep. The Battle of the Bulldogs there. And so Georgia and Georgia Tech both moving on, looking pretty good. The Jackets getting the big win there over Virginia with some late offense in that one. We'll keep our eye on the world of college baseball and softball, man. It's a lot of fun, too, watching the women's game as well. Hey, let's talk a little bit about the PGA Tour. We just had someone text into our Jasper Coca-Cola text line at 866-888-0744. And again, a friend of ours from Ringgold asked the question, does Scottie Scheffler complete the career Grand Slam this year at Shinnecock Golf Club up in New York? Of course, that'd be for the U.S. Open later this year. Can Scottie do it? Absolutely. I think he can. I'd like to see him do it. I'm a Scottie fan myself. But a PGA Tour talk, no doubt about it, as we continue this weekend, of course, with the C.J. Byron Cup.
I think he's trending that way. He finished 5 under yesterday at the CJ Cup. Byron Nelson. One of the things that and Brooks Koepka, my boy Brooksy, he finished at second at 8 under. Somebody snuck a couple of under par round 9 under and put him in second place. But the one of the things that I read. And there's a big debate, and listen, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm an expert at everything, but looking at the golf schedule and stuff, PGA Tour is going through some. I'm not going to say problems, but there's some uncertainty. There's talk about cutting the schedule back some.
Right.
I think what happened is that they were trying to compete with LIV.
Yeah.
And they made the purses so much bigger. They tried to give it more of a circus feel.
Sure.
As you know, I'm a big LIV fan.
Right.
And it looks like that they're trying to restructure it right now, so we'll see what happens. But I think, if you look at the top 20, Dave, I think I know 3 of the golfers. And the Byron Nelson Classic that it used to be called, that used to be one of the big tournaments. It was definitely in the top 10.
Right.
But now you're just seeing guys, they're not playing. Raw stayed out because he won the PGA Championship last week.
A lot of no-shows.
Some
You're
of those
right.
guys aren't playing. And these people count on these golfers because that's what brings the money in.
Sure.
And so what they're not going to tell you is how much money they're actually losing and where they're going to come up with the prize money. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
So they've got to make some changes. I don't know what's going to happen. I've always been a big proponent. They've got like 56, 57 tournaments now, and they probably could scale it back some. But in order to be on the PGA Tour, I think you should have to at least play 75% of the tournaments.
Yeah.
I just think that's what you should have to do. And some of these guys, the top 50 players are probably not even hitting 40% of them, because they're all prepared for the majors because we put so much. We put so much on the majors.
Exactly.
The TPC at Sawgrass, and some of, the Jack Nicklaus tournament, the Arnold Palmer tournament. They put so much into those that they've already cut the one back from Hawaii. If you remember, they didn't go out to Hawaii this year.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I think they're just trying to wait to see what LIV does, and then they're going to restructure what they're doing. Is what I think.
React to that instead of being proactive, and kind of embracing some of those things. They're going to wait and see what happens all the way to the end with LIV there. But yeah, man, I you know what? I think Scottie gets it done this year. I think that hopefully he will add his name, to that list as far as winning all the titles there, the majors, the Grand Slam there, of course, coming up later in the year. So thank you, man. We appreciate you chiming in there. Don't have a name there, but again, Ringgold, Georgia, represented here on the Morning Rant today. Hey, again, we want to hear from you. Jasper Coca-Cola text line always open, man, at 866-888-0744. That's 0PIG for the Pig. The Sports Pig is the home of ESPN Radio in North Georgia. Hey, we're talking about college football, and one of the big things there that we've been talking about is just the ever-changing landscape, of course, of what things are looking like. And we mentioned the other day right here about the athletic director at Iowa State saying, hey, if the SEC and Big Ten think they can live on their own, then let them see what goes on. And you and I were talking about this, and you wrote down in some notes as well. New York Times had an article that said the SEC may very well be floating the idea of breaking away from the NCAA. So, again, a lot of talk right now. And, with things changing the way they are and all the movement going on, man, I wouldn't be surprised to see it, honestly.
They can't do anything until 2031, 2032, but the arrogance of the SEC knows no bounds. I am just, they're going to talk about it. They're going to actually think that they could pull away and run as their own entity, which good luck if you do that. We got 6 or 7 years to worry about that. And then I read another article, if I may say, that it seems like now, everybody has an opinion about the NIL, the transfer rules, the budget spending, how much money is the school bringing in, the admissions for the students and everything coming in. But everybody's got an opinion, but nobody's wanting to make a decision.
Right. Yeah.
Nobody's wanting to step up because they're afraid.
Yeah.
They're afraid of the backlash that they're going to get. And, I think I do. It's hard for me to say how or my reasoning, but the top 24, if there's one reason that I do like it, and if I've contradicted myself, please tell me, but the one reason I like that is that I think that the major schools are going to have to stop playing the patsies.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to start valuing those 3 out-of-conference games.
Right.
And I think it's going to make it better. Now, I think what's going to happen is that you're not going to have a 12-0 team at number 1. I think the parity will start to play into it a little bit.
Sure.
24 is not going to beat number 1. We know that on a consistent basis. But I think, on any given day, 24 can beat 12, or
sure.
24 might sneak up and beat 8. But I think it does. You get rid of the conference championship games. I think the 3 out-of-conference games makes it more intriguing, and
right.
and you would see you could see teams start to separate themselves.
Sure.
Whereas you might have a 9-3 team at number 1, or
right.
because now you're really seeing the strength of schedule come into play. You can't see a strength of schedule when you play Marshall or Gardner Webb, or not taking anything away from those teams,
yeah.
but it's not comparably day in and day out. Those teams can't compete in the Power 5.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talk about the budget spending. How sustainable is it? I think a lot of that plays into it as well. It's always a money thing, as you and I talk about. It comes back to that. You've got some football teams and that are entering that $50 million budget area, right? I mean, so, it's one of those things where they're chasing trophies like we talked about with golf just a second ago. Some of these guys are sitting out the major, some of these other tournaments strictly focusing on the majors. Well, college sports right now, I mean, you've got all this money, man. You're loading up for that trophy, baby, because winning cures all, right? And so, it's a situation where there's a lot of things that are going on when you talk about budgets. You talk about, the decisions that, the ADs and coaches and people are looking for other people to make. But you and I have talked about it. NCAA has never really had much of a backbone to be able to step in and make these decisions. So now you've got the American Football Coach Association, all these different people that are trying to come in and determine all this stuff. So,
with the money part of it and the admissions and everything, I forget what the Georgia Tech Foundation's bottom line is. I think it's somewhere around $2 or $3 billion. It's up there with some of the Ivy League schools. Even if we got 1% of that, our budget would be higher than it's ever been before. We have some very generous donors at Georgia Tech on the sports side and on the academic wise and on the sidewalk fan side.
Right.
I sit with a guy who didn't go to Tech, doesn't have anything to do with it, but he is the biggest Tech fan around. And he invites me to sit with him, and but he does he's such a generous donor. But you know what? We're going to lose people like that from my standpoint. And
sure.
I remember talking to some of the old guard at Georgia Tech 30 years ago, and they would come to me and say, John, we're not going to be here forever. So you need to start finding new blood, and we're fortunate. We've had some football players that has done very well, who have been very generous to the program, and then also academic wise as well, and then your sidewalk fans. So we have to make sure that we take care of those people and we acknowledge them, because it's going to be interesting, to be honest with you, to see what Indiana does this year.
Yes,
I know the schedules. Michigan, $50 million. They spent $20 million on their basketball program.
Right.
So I think at the end of the day, where does it stop? And it goes back to everybody's got an opinion, everybody's got an idea, but nobody's willing to, stand up
to make
and
a
say,
decision.
So
they don't want it to fall back on them.
Again, we talked about, you don't really want to talk about this every day, but you have to, because something always comes up, and it's just like makes you, scratch your head and think, well, hell, we gotta talk about it, and make sure that we keep our fans informed as much as possible. But it's the SEC, the arrogance of those guys, and but it's just getting back to the 24, you could very well, have a number 24 that could be 7-5 and make it to the playoffs. And however they do the structure. But we know that they're not going to compete with the top 4 or 5 teams. But does it bring in a lot more money? Do you replace the big bowls because now you're taking bowls away from other teams? Do you do away with a bowl season?
Right.
Because you and I know a lot of players are skipping, and there are 5 and 7 teams that played last year, which I think is wrong.
Right.
I don't know. I just think, excuse me, I just think there's so much that's going to happen, before the season starts. We're just going to be talking about it, 24/7.
There you go. We'll talk about it on the other side of our final break right here as well on the home of ESPN Radio in North Georgia. We do have another listener from Buford. We'll get to that listener here after the break as well with a good question. We'll talk about it, and we'll dive into some NFL news to wrap up the show as well. Again, visit us on our social media. The Sports Pig, as always, is on Facebook. Our show, The Morning Rant, on Instagram, and also full video episodes on YouTube. The podcast version of the show uploaded daily to our website. That's sportspigradio.com, and wherever you listen to your favorite daily podcast on the Apple and Android platforms all over the place, including Spotify, Podbean, you name it. You can catch me on Twitter at DaveGarner777. He's at JohnDavis_65, and this is the Morning Rant. We'll be right back here on the Sports Pig app and online at sportspigradio.com.
Financial scams are on the rise, and with AI, they're getting more and more sophisticated every day. If someone pressures you to act quickly, ask for secrecy, or request payment through gift cards, wire transfers, or cryptocurrency, stop. Legitimate financial professionals don't rush you or demand unusual payment methods. Before you send money or share personal information, slow down and verify. Protect your future. When in doubt, ask questions.
If you're suspicious of a scam, call the team at Foundation Wealth today at 706-278-0214.
Grand Slam!
98.1 and 93.7 The Sports Pig, the official home for the Atlanta Braves baseball. We bring the heat, you bring the trash talk.
Come on, man. Are you serious?
It's the Morning Rant, live on the Sports Pig app and sportspigradio.com.
Back here on a Friday happy hour presented by your friends at Bradley's Bar and Grill, again off of Lower Roswell Road in East Cobb. We'll be back there in a few short weeks as we continue on, excuse me, with the program right here. Hey, had a lot of action today on our Jasper Coca-Cola text line, 866-888-0744. Had a listener from Buford, Georgia, that asked, how in the world do colleges measure graduation rates? I've seen them reported, but how are they calculated? And what school gets credit if the player has accrued over half the hours at another school? Great question, because, you see that happening a lot now, where players are moving around every year or so. But great question right there from our friend in Buford, Georgia here today. John, you got any ideas about that?
Yeah, that is a great question, and I'm going to, you know what, I've heard that before, and I'm going to talk to our academic advisor down there for athletics and just see, how they are measuring that and how they are going with the graduation rates and stuff like that. I do know Georgia Tech's probably a little bit different. I think our graduation rate's a lot higher than, some of these other schools. And yes, that's a fact. It's not, I'm just not making that up. But yeah, to see that, and also we get a lot of students that already have their degree. We have a lot of transfers that come in that, just like Haynes King, he graduated from Texas A&M, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, but I think Big Red Keelan, I think he graduated from Middle Tennessee State when before he came over to Georgia Tech as well. I'm not for sure about that, but so yeah, we have a lot of grad transfers come in. But I'll get with the academic counselor in the next few weeks and kind of ask him that question and see and get back to everybody.
Here we go. I like it right here. Thanks for the comment right there. Again, that Jasper Coca-Cola text line blowing up today on a happy hour Friday. We appreciate you guys checking in with us right here. Please do so, 866-888-0744, even when we're off the air. Again, It's still open. We'll come back and address it on Monday. And you know what? You and I haven't even really talked about Monday yet. It is Memorial Day. We'll have to figure out what our plans are for that as well. But you also, I believe, had someone text in something to you as well, right, partner?
Yeah, I had a random text come through my phone, which I fortunately get every once in a while. But they're asking, leading into the NFL, they ask, what do football players do in the off season and before the season? It's kind of like after spring practice for college and before, summer practice. In college, usually right now, they're probably taking a little bit of break because of graduation. Then they're going to all come back because I believe most of them will take 1 or 2 classes during the summer, which also gives them a chance to still work as a team, when they work out and everything. And then that camaraderie, they build that. And then also, for the NFL, I just texted Keelan last night to ask him how he was going. He loves it out there. He loves the transition. He's playing both center and guard. Very high pace, fast paced. A lot different than Georgia Tech, as we all know. The NFL's a lot quicker and faster than the college level and stuff. So, it's they're doing OTAs right now. Yep. And they're just getting to know the system because it's like I told Keelan, once preseason comes, man, you got maybe 12 practices before your first game, and he's embracing it, he's enjoying it. They'll have a little bit of a summer to have a break, go on vacation, because they all know what's important now, and I think he understands the importance of the responsibilities that he has in front of him, and I don't think he's one of those kids that's going to let us down either.
Yeah, no, I don't think so either, man. Yeah, Big Red.
But I did want to say one thing to our listeners out there. I don't know if we're having issues or what's going on, but Dave, I was listening to y'all the other day with the app. I think we're still trying to work out some kinks with the app. As far as I'm getting some feedback that it's being cracking a little bit, or there's a little silence. So just be patient with us. We're going to get it all worked out, and we're only 10 weeks in, so
we'll get
it's going to take a little time.
Yeah, and I would point people to the stream as well, sportspigradio.com. Again, the player kind of works off the same deal there, but if you're having trouble on the app, definitely just go right to our website and hit listen live. There's a big button right at the top, you can't miss it. So again, sportspigradio.com or the app. Sometimes it's the signal, it might just be where you're at. I lose a lot of Atlanta radio stations, honestly, even up in this area as well, over apps and things. But definitely working through some stuff right here. But we appreciate you guys listening in. You can always text in at 866-888-0744. That's our Jasper Coca-Cola text line. And as always, man, we are the home of hot takes and again, hot mics right here on the Morning Rants.
911, what's your emergency?
Bold takes from the big man himself. It's Big John's Bold Take of the Week, only on the Morning Rant.
All right, so again, I want to come back and talk a little bit about, some other NFL news and things like that. One of the things that we've mentioned is, the NFL kind of taking care of players and things like that. And but I know you and I were talking, you got some things in your notes about egos, man, right? And, keeping some of the older players coming back, whereas some programs tend to embrace that, but others don't, for whatever reason. So, yeah, man, I wanted to let you roll with that this morning for a minute.
I'm just wondering, is the talent level that bad for listen, I'm a fan of Matthew Stafford. I know he played over to the east of us, but the guy's a hell of a quarterback. But I mean, he's like 43?
Yeah,
42,
he's up there now
like
a little bit now. Yeah,
$55 million. God bless him. Do they not have any confidence? In their backups and stuff. Are we better with Matthew or better with their backup? And the same goes. I just saw where Aaron Rodgers got another $25 million to come back. And Aaron is a weird case because I think with him I think personally is totally ego driven.
Yeah.
Of course he's back with McCarthy, who he was with at Green Bay, and I just think he sits back and he's just like, hey, I might come, I might not come. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll let you know, one of these days.
Right, exactly.
When's training camp? Yeah, I'll let you know the day before.
Right, yeah.
And so I'm just amazed that the amount of time that they could have being with his wide receivers and spending that time and getting to know them to where he's like, yeah, I might play, I might not. And I just think it's totally ego-driven. Listen, I'm going to tell you a story right quick. Let's see, we got a couple minutes. Bruce Smith, love him. Greatest defensive lineman by far.
Right. Yep.
Defensive end.
Yep.
And I remember right when money was starting to get up a little bit, I think Bruce was making about, $3.5-4 million a year, which, compared to my $110,000, that's a lot of money.
That's
And so he holds out a training camp. And so he comes about the week before we get out of training camp, maybe 3 or 4 days before training camp ends. He signs a contract and he gets like a $300,000 raise.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, you're all this for $300,000? He said, yeah. He said, I just didn't want to come to training camp.
Yeah.
You
get to a certain point in your career and it's like, I know what I'm doing,
Yeah,
I get it.
Exactly. And he said, I just wanted to see if they'd pay me a little bit more. But I didn't really want to come to training camp.
That's hilarious.
And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah,
so, but and the egos, listen, I played with them. I had an ego because, the intensity, there's a lot that I can unload, with that whole thing. But it's, but some of these guys, you have to almost wonder the talent level. Are they that insecure that they're not ready to move somebody into their place?
Right.
Instead of paying this guy that much money.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my opinion.
Great take right there, no doubt about it. Big John bringing it as always right here on a Friday happy hour presented by your friends at Bradley's Bar and Grill. Once again, man, thanks for bringing it.
Thanks, Professor.
Yes, sir. There you go. Have a great weekend. Again, Memorial Day weekend right here as we thank all of our veterans and, of course, mindful of all those folks that have fought for our country again. And, again, we appreciate you guys being with us right here on another edition of the show. Chuck Oliver up next. We end every day by saying the same thing. If you don't know, you better ask somebody. Again, right here on the home of ESPN Radio in North Georgia on the Sports Pig app and online at sportspigradio.com. We'll see you later.
Tired of shouting your business's name into the void and getting nothing but crickets? Your brand deserves more than awkward billboard glances and flyers lining bird cages. Right now, listeners are hearing me ramble on instead of your ad. That's a touchdown for missed opportunities and a fumble for your wallet.
Recovered, Atlanta, game over.
Your ad could be here, making fans laugh, cheer, and most importantly, call you. Go to sportspigradio.com or call 678-454-9552 and get your business off the bench and into the game.